Really?
We're live, but we can cut out anything we want.
Yola is our audio engineer. So.
I
know that. Surgeon.
Surgeon, audio,
surgical
engineer,
precision,
whatever. So do you want to start, Susan?
I am horrible at starting.
Okay,
He looks at me like I get paralyzed.
You want me to start?
3, 2, 1.
I'm horrible at starting. I don't know what to do.
You're wasting time, guys.
Somebody please start.
Okay, I'll start.
I can start.
3, 2, 1.
Sorry for saying Sorry Media presents the Purr Podcast, the best podcast for feline medicine and surgery with tips, tricks, and updates for the entire veterinary healthcare team. If you're dying to know more about cats, keep on listening. Here are your hosts, Dr. Susan Little, famous cat vet and textbook author, and Dr. Yola Kerpenstein, talented surgeon and social media geek.
Hello, this is Dr. Yola Kerpenstein.
And this is Dr. Susan Little.
Yay! We're here. We're here in Vegas.
Yes.
And we have a great lineup of guests. And our first guest is a very famous person.
Yeah, and I am so thrilled to have you on our podcast, Steve, because you have interviewed me many times, and I am so excited that now I get to interview you.
I'm a little bit afraid.
Yes.
You should be.
And Steve has the perfect podcast voice.
He does. You have a voice for radio. Or haven't I heard you say you have a face for radio?
Yes.
Yeah, I've heard you say that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so tell me about the face for radio.
Yes. How did that happen?
How did it happen that I have the face I have?
Yeah.
Well, the question might be, how did I go from playing music on the radio, which I did at one time.
Yeah.
So last night we were at a restaurant, and it just kicks in. It's like this memory that I cannot help. I heard an Earth, Wind, and Fire song that I used to play on the air, so I could tell you that was it. And I could tell you that song is 3 minutes and 51 seconds. Look it up, it is. And the intro time, they call it the lip in radio, the time in which a DJ can voice over the beginning of the song. I could tell you how long that is as well.
It's just, gosh.
And it just like kicks in, even though it's been more than a few years since I've done that.
So was that like...
But before we go there, let's get a little background on Steve.
So I played music on the radio, and also I was writing anytime I could. On the radio you don't work long hours necessarily, so I had time to write part-time. And I was writing part-time, so I'll jump to a radio station after working in suburban radio outside Chicago. And even radio stations in the city, I was somehow hired. I was still in college at WCFL Radio, classic 50,000-watt station in Chicago. I was there for some period of time. They fired me.
No way.
And everybody else as they changed format. But for whatever reason, they hired me back the next day. And I was there still for another year and a half. They fired me again when the format changed. And that time I was fired was kind of an interesting story. I hadn't yet met the new general manager. And we were on the 16th floor in Marina City. And the CTA, the public transportation in Chicago, was on the 15th floor and part of the 16th floor. And they would go up to go down at the end of the day because you can get any elevator. So the elevator's packed. I'm walking into the elevator with the new general manager, his first day.
Yeah.
At that point, I introduce myself as the elevator's coming. We walk into the elevator. And he says, well, it was so nice to meet you. I understand you've done a lot for the radio station, and it was nice to have had you work here. He fired me in the elevator. Which makes me say, I got the shaft in an elevator.
That's a whole new meaning to elevator speech.
Yes, exactly. Yes. He got the elevator speech down really... But
10 seconds.
But they hired me back the next day. I got a raise, which was probably 10 cents an hour or something.
Yeah.
And I was back until they finally went all religion. At which point I did not stay for that one. My name appeared with 12 other names or something. Those of us who are still standing in a local newspaper column. So I come into work. I see my name in the paper. I realize I'm fired. I'm cleaning out my desk, and the Chicago Tribune calls. And I had been writing for the Tribune. And they said, we'd like you to do an entertainment column covering celebrities when they come to town, which is something I had done, if you remember way back when.
Yeah.
So I said, sure, can I also write about pets? And he said, about what? I said, pets. And they said, yeah, whatever. So that's how it began in the Tribune, and it kind of went on from there.
Wow. Wow.
And for 12 years, any story on the feature side that appeared in the Tribune about companion animals, even zoo animals, was my story.
Wow. Very cool.
And now you are famous, so how many people listen to your show?
It used to be 2. Now it's 1. My mom, Dr. Little, doesn't listen anymore. So I don't know, thousands and thousands. I've different shows. So there's 2 national radio shows. I have no idea what the listenership is. It's in the hundreds of thousands.
Wow.
And then I'm on WGN radio in Chicago too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I write a blog and I do other things. Sometimes contribute to certain books.
Indeed.
Such as?
Yeah, such as The Cat. Yeah.
Which is coming out?
Yeah. So
is this a plug for her new book?
A little bit.
Well,
yes, that's exactly what I'm doing.
Right.
It has been a pleasure to have you contribute to the Cat. Steve has written and then updated for the 2nd edition a really nice chapter on kitten kindergarten, which I have to tell you, I really knew very little about until I met you.
Really?
I knew, I heard the name, but I really knew very little about like what it was and how it was done until I met you, because I know you ran kitten kindergarten classes.
So can I tell you a little secret?
Yeah, sure.
You guys won't tell anyone?
No, we promise.
It's just between us?
That's it.
Okay,
we'll cut this out.
No, don't cut it out, actually. I think I have some financial help, corporate help, to finally launch these. And sometimes things happen when you least expect it. Mm-hmm. So I'm crossing my paws because this will save cats' lives.
Oh, it's so important.
So tell us a little bit because this is the first time I hear about this.
Okay, so I was at the
elevator page.
I was teaching or helping to teach at the North American Veterinary Conference Postgraduate Institute at the time. And a veterinary behaviorist who I know you know, Dr. Kirsty Sexel, who is...
Love her.
Yeah, me too.
Love her.
And she is an underachiever, boarded in behavior in Europe, Australia, and America. I believe the only person on the planet that's boarded in 3 places like that. Yeah, certainly the only person in behavior. And she happened to be talking about kitten brain development and parenthetically said, these kitty kindies. And I said, these what? I had never heard of them. I mean, this was 10 years ago maybe. And she explained what they are, and what they are taking kittens of a certain age. They have to be between about 8 and 15 or 16 weeks of age. Mm-hmm. So unlike puppy classes, you have a very, very small window here, in part because of the way kittens are socialized. Yeah. And it's not like a play group like puppy classes are. There's some interaction, but usually it's interesting when you take the kittens out, they don't play with one another, they play with objects. Yeah. They play with the cat toys mostly, and sometimes interact with people. Rarely with one another. And at that age, when they do, it's all positive. The idea, though, is there are so few resources out there for cat owners. Mm-hmm. Here's a way to, in a positive way and informational way, talk about cat care. But the other thing, that light bulb that went on for me, is if we can get cats as kittens into the carrier, and it's not a bad thing, it's a good thing at such a young age, and the car ride is positive, and I like doing the kitten classes. You can do them in a variety of places, but I love doing them at vet clinics, and then they are positively disposed to. It's wonderful, because then if the owners keep it up at all, then they have a positive association with the veterinary clinic. And maybe it was a little ahead of its time here, because now Cat Friendly Practices is talking about that. Right.
Very nice fit. And I think it's a brilliant concept, because it not only reinforces for the kitten at a time of life when they're really amenable to that type of thing, but it shows the owner. Imprint, there you go. But it shows the owner that you can get a cat in the carrier. You can, take them in the car. It's a brilliant idea.
And if that happens, veterinary visits go up. And if that happens, cats save lives. I mean, you guys are good veterinarians. No, I'm wrong. You are superb. No, I'm wrong again. You are the best, the best that there are, right? But how can you help, Dr. Little? You tell me how you can do this. Help a cat or kitten you're not seeing.
Absolutely.
You can.
And that is the huge problem in feline medicine. Steve and I have talked about this a number of times. Easy to see kittens. Easy to see old sick cats. What about everybody else?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And if you...
We're going to tackle them. We're going to tackle that in the future.
We will.
I feel it, yes.
I feel it.
I think it's being changed now. So the talk that I'm giving here we're at the Western Veterinary Conference, happens to be about how millennials are actually beginning to change that. And veterinary visits are going up. And what millennials are seeking is the best of veterinary medicine, and that includes cat-friendly practices. So in my view, cat-friendly practices has come along at the perfect time.
Yeah, I think it has, and we really need to leverage that. And that's, you're right, it's probably a brilliant time to kind of relaunch or reinvigorate the kitten kindergarten concept.
Yeah, so I'm so excited that it's happening.
So Per Podcast bring you the hottest news
there you
right
go.
here.
Hot off the press.
Kitten kindergarten.
Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
The Winn Feline Foundation has been funding cat health studies for 51 years. If you have a cat or have ever treated a cat, nearly everything we know was once funded by this nonprofit, totaling about $6.5 million. From understanding retroviruses, FELV and FIV, to more recently targeting gene defects responsible for HCM in the Ragdoll and Maine Coon breeds. The Winn Feline Foundation Pet Memorial Program offers veterinary professionals an opportunity to reassure clients that their beloved cats have not been forgotten, and those dollars support health studies that benefit the lives of all cats. Contributions totaling $150 or more receive a certificate suitable for framing or display in your clinic. Imagine being able to treat kidney disease more effectively, using stem cell therapy to cure stomatitis, or drugs to treat FIP are actually within grasp. Consider your support in telling your clients about the Winn Feline Foundation and a free newsletter at winfelinefoundation.org.
We didn't talk about the D word yet, but you're not supposed to say it, just as a warning.
Okay.
Because you know what happens?
What?
So Steve and I have this long-standing, let's say, relationship over margaritas.
Oh, yes, the margarita thing.
You owe me one, by the way.
And this is
you
always...
owe me one, too.
See, this is always what happens, because Susan can never remember who owes. Steve always manages to convince me I owe him. So
She does.
So here's the thing. If you say the D word, and this is not, just for you, we do this with everybody,
Yeah.
You owe us a drink. Yes. And it'll be a margarita.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, good. Okay,
But if
we're
I
keeping
don't...
track.
Hold on here.
No,
but if I don't,
it's
then
a
I
one-
receive a margarita. In fact, I receive two. There's two hosts of the show here.
Sorry, Steve, this is a one-way elevator.
Not the contract I signed.
Okay, we'll have to see how this one works
it's
out.
great to have you on board with the Per Podcast, and one of the reasons that we want to have you here is talk a little bit about the Winn Foundation.
Yeah.
Oh, I had a cat named Ricki, and can I talk about that cat
Yes,
for a moment?
of course.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah, so back in the day, this was before YouTube. Ricki would have been a YouTube star,
Absolutely.
I'm sure.
Of course.
So I had this fairly social, at that point...
As a matter of fact, that's what I say about myself. If YouTube would be there when I was young, I would have been a YouTube star. So thank you, Steve, for putting it there.
Clearly.
I feel so much better.
I thought he was going to say what I say about myself is that I'm fairly social. So clearly you can now be a YouTube star. In fact, you can see this or parts of this on YouTube,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So we have to point that
point.
out. So before we go back to Ricki, is we will have these 60-second cat bites on our YouTube channel.
Cat bites.
One of our first victims of the cat bite is Steve himself. So he has 60 seconds to explain whatever we talked about here on our YouTube channel. So check it out.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a cat named, at that point a kitten, Devon Rex, named Ricki.
Ricki.
And our dog,
Is it
one of
from
our...
Ricki?
Oh, shoot.
See how easy it is?
Yes.
Shoot.
See how easy it is?
I think he owes us one.
Keep going.
Yeah, just
Well, not every time I mention it, that wasn't the deal.
It is.
No.
Keep going.
Steve.
So our other pet with 4 legs, this is humiliating. Our other pet with 4 legs was doing animal-assisted therapy at the time with my wife Robin at the Rehab Institute of Chicago, which is a very famous place.
Yeah.
And one of the things our miniature Australian Shepherd, that's what I should have said in the first place.
Well done.
Yes.
Well done.
One of the things that she did was with little tricks. And my wife came home and said, I need more tricks. And I thought, So I went to Toys R Us or something and got a little kid's piano. and I begin the process of clicker training our little miniature Australian Shepherd to play the piano. And I began I clicked, and she lifted her paw up a little more, and a little more, a little more, and things are going along okay. I thought I closed the door all the way to the room I was in, and I didn't.
We're getting to Ricki at a certain point, don't we?
And in walks
Ricki
the cat.
Oh.
And Ricki looks at me, looks at the dog, and goes,
"Two.
Ping, ping, ping."
Ricki shows the D.
Never mind that.
How to do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And begins to play this. So I thought, oh my gosh, I've got a prodigy here.
I know.
So being somewhat social, so social that I think there was actually some separation distress going on. So when we would all together as a family leave the house, then on the other side of the door, our neighbors would actually hear Ricki complain about that. So I thought, okay, I could take Ricki. I leash and harness trained our cat, and our cat Ricki would go out and about with us. And I thought, So eventually we went to Petco, PetSmart, those sorts of places, and did piano recitals. And then the TV stations picked up on it. Right. And we became sort of television stars. And over a course of time, we even heard from David Letterman at that time. I mean, at that time, people didn't think, and there's still plenty who don't, that cats can't do anything like that.
Can't do any tricks or entertainment.
And right, and you wouldn't take them out in public because, I mean, it was all the misconceptions people had about cats. What was more, I still have some of the video of us at one of the pet stores. And what's interesting to me is not the ping, 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 ping our cat was doing on the piano. It's looking at the people looking at the cat. Because they're like astounded. We had one guy who was like waving his hand over the cat like looking for wires, and actually thought this was a puppet because a cat cannot do these things. And eventually...
And is there historical material available for us to fact check
some?
This?
Yes, actually there is.
I will vouch for it.
No, there truly is. There's video. You know, I mean, we didn't record. I mean, it was... We didn't. When you're in it, you don't think of saving things, and the things you save them, you can't even watch in a format today. You know, but we've got stuff, and you could Google even this.
That's awesome.
So one day we go to the veterinarian, and the veterinarian begins the exam, and I saw the look on her face, and it's when she had the stethoscope over Ricki's heart. She heard a murmur, went to see the veterinary cardiologist. It turns out to be hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. Ricki lived about 3.5 more years. Passed away suddenly, just died suddenly, as these cats will do. So that is when I thought I needed to do something about it. When I learned how prevalent heart disease is in cats, it is not uncommon. In fact, it may be for indoor cats only the number one cause of death. For
cats, sudden death. That's not trauma, right?
It is the number one cause of sudden death.
Yeah.
But it may be the number one cause of death between the age of about 2 and 5 or 6 or 7 in all cats that are indoor-only cats. And I thought, something's got to be done about this. So that's when I went to the Morris Animal Foundation. I went to the Winn Feline Foundation. I said, first come, first serve. I want to begin a fund to support studies for this. Winn answered in about 5 minutes.
Because, let's just stop from because at that time we knew very little about it. We didn't know how to treat it. We didn't know if it was inherited. We knew hardly anything at that time.
Right. So that is how I got involved with the Winn Feline Foundation. I think you were on the board at that point.
Yeah, I was on the board at that time, and I met you like in that moment, right, when the Ricki Fund was getting established. And it was just I'm so proud of Winn for taking up the idea.
And you were a part of that. And we've raised hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah. So
continue to
tell us a little bit about the research that Winn was able to fund through the Ricki Fund. Tell us some of the things that have come out of that.
So one of the things that came out of it, you described already, simply a better understanding of what we're dealing with here. You can't cure something you don't completely understand, and I would argue it's not completely understood still. But we have a better handle on understanding it. Also, now we know which or we think we know, which cat breeds are most involved in this. Also that it could be certain breeds. It can be breed specific. It could be familial, different families of cats of any breed or any mix that this disease runs in. Or spontaneously, it can happen for reasons unknown to individual cats.
To any cat.
Yeah, domestic short hair. I mean, any cat, any time, it doesn't matter. So that's one thing we learned. And another thing that this research helped with is now there are 2 breeds where a gene defect can be identified with an inexpensive, that's important for breeders, inexpensive cheek swab test. It's easy to do. It's not like a 100% test, but it's helpful.
Pretty good.
Yeah, and as a result, we're seeing in Maine Coon cats and ragdolls less cardiomyopathy today, which is amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Because you do need a test, right?
Yes, and
for these inherited diseases.
And we're still raising money for it.
And I think it's really good to hear about this because it's difficult to raise money for cat projects in general.
Yes.
And so Winn is one of the few instances.
It's the only one in the world that I know of that exists solely to raise money for cat health studies.
Yeah, so we had Kate on the podcast before.
Katie Tolbert.
And so Katie was talking about the fact that she loved Winn because they stimulate her to do research in cats. And she said how difficult it was to find money except through Winn.
Sadly, that's true. For cats. For dogs, it's, oh gosh. For those other species, not that we're counting how many times I've said that. It's easier. And even for llamas, it seems easier at times than it is for cats. Yeah, I don't get it.
But I know why. Yeah. So this is the end of the first podcast with Steve. Steve, thank you so much. This has been amazing.
My pleasure.
Oh, you're so easy to talk to. And I've known you for a long time, so I just knew that sitting down and chatting with you, the time would go by, in a minute.
Crazy.
Yeah. And
so you just heard her say that I'm easy.
Okay. Yeah. Let's.
You don't want to go there?
No. Let's put a definition in of easy.
So the one way Steve is not easy is me trying to get a drink out of him because it's usually that would be true.
Now it is.
That would be true. I don't know anything about that.
Exactly.
All right. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll have to have you back, Steve.
Thank you.
The opinions of this podcast are those by Dr. Susan Little and Dr. Yola Kerpenstein. Veterinary medicine is a complex profession, and often there are multiple diagnostic and therapeutic options for different disease processes. If you're a pet owner with questions, please go to your local veterinarian. If you're a veterinary professional, ask your questions on our Instagram page @PerPodcast. Dr. Susan Little is a feline medicine specialist with 2 cat-only hospitals in Ottawa, Canada. She is best known as an international speaker and as the author and editor of 2 textbooks, The Cat, Clinical Medicine and Management, and August, Consultations in Feline Internal Medicine. Along with 3 cats, she also admits to owning 2 dogs, and you can follow her on social media with the handle @CatVetSusan. Dr. Yola Kerpenstein is a diplomate of the American and European College of Veterinary Surgeons and a big cat fan. His specialties range from surgical oncology and reconstruction to minimally invasive surgery. He is the author of 2 textbooks on basic and reconstructive surgery. Did you know he was allergic to cats? Yola works currently at Hill's Pet Nutrition. You can follow him on social media with the handle @GVETSX.